There are many moving parts in a divorce, and keeping track of them can sometimes be overwhelming and confusing, especially when it comes to the numbers, the money, and the finances. Our next guest knows there's so much bad and false information out there, which is why she put together a list of 5 things to make this straightforward and easy peasy to understand. I'm pleased to welcome Donna LaScala, founder of Comprehensive Divorce Solutions. Donna is also the co-president of the Association of Divorce Financial Planners, a certified divorce financial analyst, and a registered financial neutral. Donna, welcome.
It's so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you. And you have a list of 5 important financial tips people must know when they are going through the divorce process. And we are saying that because a lot of people are starting to file new actions, with January being divorce month. There are 3 do's and 2 don'ts. Can you please list and explain the reason behind each one?
For sure. And I know it sounds simple that there's 5, but these are 5 big ones, and they do cover a lot of territory. So let me start with the do's. So I think the first thing that's very important when you're starting out in the divorce process is to learn about the law in your state. There are laws governing how assets are divided. There are laws governing the things that we call support, child support, spousal support. Those are very important to know. Are you living in a state that is equitable distribution, or are you living in a state that's community property? Those are the 2 terms that are most widely used. There are certain things that are generally split evenly, like retirement accounts, but there are a lot of caveats to that as well. And there are guidelines that govern child support and spousal support. And there are calculations that are done and things that are taken into consideration when you're talking about those kinds of financial support. The length of the marriage, the age of the children, the combined income of both parents. One of the things that people don't understand is that it's unlikely in many cases that even a parent who is a stay-at-home parent and does not work outside of the home does not get 0 income. Even someone like that is imputed with some basic income. So that's something that needs to be looked at, and those calculations need to be understood, and the laws of your particular state need to be taken into consideration. You need to know what framework you're working in. So that's really the starting point. The second thing I like to say as far as a do is do evaluate your financial situation and be realistic. Because more often than not, people don't know what their own cash flow situation actually is. So they're not sure what their financial situation is going to be after they get divorced. This is crucial because if you don't even know where you're starting from, how do you know where you're going? So when you're thinking about getting divorced, do evaluate what your current financial situation is. Look at your bank statements. Start collecting them. Look at patterns of inflow and outflow. Look at your mortgage statement or your rental agreement, your utilities, the things that you pay on a consistent basis. If you're using a debit card, please start to keep track of what you're doing. And please don't forget to keep track of what your spouse is doing, because you need to know what's coming in and what's going out. Once you have a handle on that, then you can start to see and picture what it's going to look like when you're in separate households and what the problems might be, the challenges might be, or the things that you really need to look at and reevaluate and say, okay, these are now luxury items. They are not necessities. So it's very important to evaluate and then go from there. this also has to do with one of my don'ts, and I'll get there in a minute. So the other do, and this can be a little tricky, the other do is to really look at the debt that's been accumulated. So we're talking about things like mortgages, things like car loans, things like student loans, all the things that we have that are liabilities on our balance sheet. Now, the thing that a lot of people don't think about and they don't understand is that even if a credit card is in one person's name or a loan was taken out by one person, if it was accumulated during the marriage, it can be considered as a marital debt. And even if your name is not on that credit card and not on that loan, you may be liable. The other thing that's very important is the house. If you own a home and it has a mortgage, if you are both on the mortgage and one person is going to retain that asset, you have to really think long and hard about how that's going to be done. Is there going to be a mortgage assumption? Is there going to be a buyout? Is there going to be a refinance? Now, it used to be a lot easier, and a lot of companies would do refinances easily when it was spouses going through a divorce, and you could do a mortgage assumption. But things have changed a lot, especially before COVID, after COVID, with interest rates going up and down. It becomes a little bit more challenging to think about refinancing a mortgage on a house that was taken out 10 years ago when interest rates were a lot lower than they are now. So we have to look at who actually can qualify. So if one person can qualify and the other can't, and the person that can't qualify is staying in the house, a lot of times spouses will say, okay, well, I'll just stay on the mortgage and continue to pay it, but I'm moving out. I can't tell you how bad an idea that is for both people. First of all, why do you want to continue to be liable for something that you no longer, in fact, actually own and reside in? And conversely, why would you trust the person that you're divorcing to not default on the mortgage of the house that you and your children are living in? It can get very, very complicated. People tend to say, okay, well, we'll do this now. We won't refinance because it's not feasible for various reasons, and we'll just continue to go on like this for the next 10 years. Nothing could be worse. You really have to look at splitting things just right off and go on your merry way and make it as clean a break as possible. Now let's get to a couple of the don'ts. Don't hide assets. Please don't hide assets. Full disclosure is the law in a lot of cases, especially if you're in litigation, and there are ramifications to not being truthful. You fill out a statement of net worth, you attest to it, it's submitted to the court. It's a document that's supposed to be truthful. The worst thing you could do is manipulate the system and purposefully hide assets because you think it's not going to be found. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. There are professionals who are forensic professionals who will be able to find most anything, even if you try your hardest to hide it. So there are ramifications for doing that, and it will come back to bite you. And the other big don't is don't drain a shared bank account, and don't misappropriate funds, and don't rack up credit card debt. Because if you remove $100,000 from your joint account and it is found that you've removed the $100,000 from your joint account, well, you're going to have to either pay your spouse back, or if it was $200,000 and you took $100, well, you've gotten your $100 already, and whether you've spent it or not is not the issue because you're not getting any more. So you have to really be careful about doing things that are going to come back to bite you in the end and not help you at all in the long run.
Donna, Thank you so much for joining us. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to talk about women who are higher earners in a divorce.
At Comprehensive Divorce Solutions, Donna LaScala provides the tools for people to deal with assets, debts, equitable distribution, and retirement in divorce negotiations. We hold your hand during and after the divorce process, providing a roadmap of what happens next and into the future. Divorce is difficult whether you're initiating it or not. It's fraught with emotion. When you deal with emotions, you are not dealing with logic, making it more difficult to decide what to do with your money. Hiring a professional to assist you in walking down the money path is crucial to avoiding potentially costly mistakes. Donna's goal is to make sure that each individual knows how they are going to be able to survive and thrive during and after divorce. As a CDFA-trained mediator and collaborative financial neutral, Donna helps people get unstuck and move forward towards their post-divorce future. Call Donna LaScala at 516-218-6919, 516-218-6919.